Welcome back to another episode of the A to Z podcast, you guys. My name is Zero Remsen. I'll be your resident Yang, and below me to my right is my man Aaron Chase. He'll be your resident Yin. In this podcast, we like to just talk about stuff via our two perspectives. My perspective being the very naive, the very rainbow-colored glasses, the very bright, sunny rainbows, and Aaron's being the more realistic, the I wanted to say narcissist, pessimism, but I think we both have elements of narcissism in us just because of I don't wanting to be in media light at all, which
Yeah.
I don't know. I go back and forth, but we'll get into it. Today, we're just kind of riffing. We don't really have a thing we're going with. We're just going to talk, and then wherever it takes us, it takes us. So I guess I'll start with that. Where do you fall on like where your narcissism starts and stops? Like, how narcissistic would you say you are? Because I am personally, I feel like I'm very conceited, but it's kind of like this half joke where it's like it's not a joke, but it's kind of a joke. It's like, I believe that I'm a 10, I believe I'm attractive, I believe I'm a great person, and I'm fun, and I'm awesome, but I also am aware that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not like, I'm not like entitled to anyone's time or energy or space. But I do think I'm dope.
Yeah. Wait, okay, when you define narcissism, so I can have some context.
Okay. Narcissism to me is like your amount of self-involvement. How much are you like, the world is my world and everyone else is just a part of it? How much of it is like me? Like how often do you think like me centric, and how often do you think like everyone else, or do you not? Because maybe I put something on you. I feel like I have a lot of tendencies of narcissism. I think I'm dope, and I think everyone should. In a world where I would have it, everyone would worship me, not like a god, but at least like a king.
You know, ironically, I'm trying, if that is the definition of narcissism, if that's the definition we're going with, I'm trying to become more narcissistic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excessive interest in or admiration of oneself.
Hey, hey! In the live, for those of you who aren't here, we do this thing live, and there are people in the comments, and sometimes Mongo drop the definition of narcissism as excessive interest in or admiration of oneself in one's physical appearance. Well, if it's specifically physical appearance, then I'm 100% that. Like, I think I'm very good looking. Have you ever had this? This is the totally me thing. And it's not recent. This is just like something that happens, and it happens at random. I'll get out of the bathroom mirror. I'll get out of the shower, or I'll get off the toilet, and then I look in the bathroom mirror, and you're just like, I am really attractive. Like, and I just take a second to look at myself, and I'm like, man, how? And I just do this a lot. Like, just a lot of admiring of what I am.
We literally have the opposite view of ourselves. Yin and yang, baby.
What is yours?
So I'm working on gaining, I don't think the word would be narcissism, I guess. It would be self-confidence or self-love or whatever.
That's a good way of looking at it, yeah.
Yeah. But narcissism sounds funnier, so I'm going to go with narcissism.
Yeah.
My pre-quarantine and even beginning of quarantine, my thoughts were obviously I would think about myself because I'm a human, but my thoughts were about other people constantly. Whether it was dealing with family or whether it was dealing with an ex or friends or the buddy system or the comedians in the IE, whatever it was, I'd be thinking about them all the time.
Right.
And now that quarantine's going on, there's this time, first time in my life, I think I said this to you before, first time in my life I've ever been left alone. Have I told you that?
No, not in that context.
Okay, so basically my life has been staying with my mom. So growing up, elementary through high school, my family minus my uncle who's on the East Coast, they're all close in the same area. And I grew up around my mom, my grandma, my grandpa, my cousins, my aunt. There's always somebody around, and those people were incredibly suffocating to my own personality. And then I would go to school where there's people, and I would go home, and I'd go to school, and I'd go back and forth where I'm constantly around people.
Right.
And all of those people are suffocating who I am. Dude, I've been gaslit. I got to tell you about this. No bullshit. I've been gaslit. It's gonna go racial again. I'm sorry, but
That's fine. Like, this isn't a podcast to stop you from. If anything, I'd like you to be more honest as possible. If you
yeah,
feel like it's a way, express that way. If you don't, because I'm gonna do the same thing. So,
perfect.
and I'm gonna have my theories of preferences when I get to mine.
Yeah.
So go.
So then college hit, and because of all of this pressure on me, I think I gravitated towards those relationships. And so I focused on that for a long time. Then when that was finally over and I was focused on comedy, I was still having to worry about other people. Like I'm still having to do the buddy system and I'm dealing with George or Will or Damani or whoever. So this is the first time literally in my life, my existence, I've been left the fuck alone. And at first it was exhausting and frustrating and difficult. And now I love it. I've come to a place of caring very, very little. When I'm in third person, it comes in my head, but as soon as I can get back to first person, I care very little about how other people are doing. And part of that is starting to noticing like, all right, who's checking in on me? Who's like the people who've been checking in, the people like you and me. I'm not saying you have to talk to me every day, but
Right.
we are consistently in contact, and it feels as though you give a shit about how I'm doing, and vice versa.
Yeah.
As there's other people, whether it be in the IE or friends and whatever, where I'm like, you haven't reached, and I'm not mad by it. I'm not. It's like you got to do you got to live your life. I'm not taking it personally. I'm mentally putting that note in that you didn't check on me. We're going through a pandemic. The economy's destroyed. People are dying, and you didn't say anything to me. So what?
Somebody in the comments said sorry. ...
Sometimes Mongo. Yeah. Wait, is that?
It's Michael.
Wait. Oh shit! It's my. Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. No, you're good. You're good.
As well.
It's not. I don't
take take him seriously, but don't take what I'm learning with Aaron is that he jumps to hyperbole and like he'll say things that he means well, but it's like when it comes out of him, it comes across like everybody against me, and it's like no, he's just like he said, he's just making a tiny note, but he's not like I got a list of people who weren't there for me. You wasn't there when I was down. Like he means it well because to express my side of it. I'm on the opposite, and that's like why I understand because I'm the person that doesn't reach out, but I also don't. I understand why people aren't reaching out to me because I'm not reaching out to them. I have my friends and my people that reach out to. I'm rarely an initiator of. I'm just trying to stay out of the crosshairs. Good idea. That's a good battle strategy. But I'm the type of person that like the people who are closest to me are those that come out of their way to, like you said, to check on me. But it's not a two-way street for me because my love works in a way that like if I care about you, then it comes up when you need me, I'm there. When you need me, I'm there. But I'm not like, hey, how are you? Hey, what's going on? Hey, like gotta make. Hey, I noticed that the pandemic's like I didn't check on anybody at all. My mom called me and then I cared about her. And like my cousin called me and I cared about her, but like I'm not in that mind. And this is where the narcissism thing does come into effect, where I'm like, if you need me, then like I'm in that Kim Possible. Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. Like that's where I'm at with it. But it's like I understand where it's like people don't want to have to do like again, like you said, it's like if you cared, then you would make the effort to check on me without me saying anything. And there's hard arguments to that. There are like the far and few between. Like again, if I hadn't talked to my mom for like months, then I'd be like, oh yeah, mom, how you doing? But like because I talk to her pretty regularly, as far as I understand, it's like it's okay and it's good. But I understand where like that would be a thing for other people.
So for me, like it just puts it in a context, and that like okay, this is how you this is how our relationship is. Okay, I'm gonna remember that. And I know that sounds super ominous, like I'm gonna remember that, but it's just I'm taking a mental note of who is actively giving a shit about me. And
Right.
I was gonna do an ACMM about this, but I'll do a prequel to the ACMM. Uh,
Ooh.
my
All the Aaron content. Put the puzzle pieces together. He put some drops here, and then he dropped the real thing here, but then he had afterthoughts here. Watch his
uh,
development.
have you had a death in your life ever?
Yes, but not to anyone. The closest death that I've had to me is my cousin, my like second cousin. So like my mom's cousin, he died, and that was like the closest to me. Like I had interacted with him, but everybody else was so like at a distance. There was no like lock bond. So when
Hmm.
that person was severed, it was like, oh, okay, that sucks. Like that's sad, but like I didn't. Yeah, it didn't like.
Get
But that's
ready
why
to
have I talked about this on the podcast? I don't know if
what?
I've mentioned this. This is one of my genuine fears that I have. And it's that like my life has been so good up to this point that when it's gonna hit, I feel like it's gonna be like somebody it's like somebody set up little time bombs. You remember in 007, the video game for Nintendo 64?
Yeah,
You remember the wall mines, and if you
yeah,
like set them up like down a hallway, then you could get everybody in one clean sweep if you just set it up. That's how I feel like life has been. It's just like we're just gonna put this landmine here. We're just gonna put this landmine here. We're just gonna put this landmine here. But then when they go, they all go because I haven't dealt with a family member's death. So, but like now I have a lot of people who are older in my life and like that I do care about. And I feel
yeah.
like when they start dropping, they're gonna drop hard and back to back. And I haven't worked up the
Callousness.
yeah, the muscles to
Yeah,
deal with that, which is why I keep the friends around me that I do keep around me. And I've warned them all the time. I'm like, listen, I want you to know that when the ball drops, I'm probably not going to be good. Like, I'm probably going to do all of the worst things. I'm going to go to the darkest places because I
yeah,
haven't had to deal with that at all. So, your job, and that's why I'm so good when you have problems, you guys' job to my friends is to like recognize that I was here for you and then help me weed through all that. Which again, I know I don't have to say that to my friends. I just
yeah,
do because I feel the foreboding. And I could be wrong. Maybe it'll be fine. But like I don't know. I don't know. Life doesn't tend to be all rainbows and my life has been pretty I mean I've had my stuff, but like it's not as bad as I've seen other people, so I'm waiting for my ball to drop.
yeah.
So that's what it is.
When your ball drops, when your balls drop, or whatever sexual joke. When
Nice.
when the shit hits the fan, please contact me. But yeah, so when I was about 14, my grandpa died, and he was like my father figure basically.
Mhm.
It's hard to because he was in the hospital for a good couple years
Side,
before.
side note, where is
Yeah,
your dad?
my dad lives in Diamond Bar.
So he's in California.
Yeah, he's not that far, and I know him. We contact every now and again, but we're not especially close.
Same, same.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, so he died when I was about 14, but even before that, it's like mostly in the hospital and like, so it was a lead up to it. And then the second big death I had was a friend of mine. I was my freshman year of college. He was in his senior year of high school and he killed himself.
Oh,
And yeah, yeah. And so what those two moments did, they're a big reason why I check in on people. I remember feeling, and less with my grandpa because this was a build up to that point. But I was a kid, so there's this weird like you can't expect a fucking 13-year-old to grasp what they need to do at this time. But then when it happened when I was in high school, there were a lot of signs. Like you could feel like something's off with him, but you don't expect it to happen until it happens. And so
right, right.
that happened, something clicked where I was like, oh, life is very, very fragile. And I don't ever want to have that feeling. I had this feeling of, I fucking should have reached out. Like, why? Why didn't I not contact him? And so now, anytime someone comes in my head, I message them all the time. And what I think, and I'm going to say this in the podcast as well, the ACMM, but what I think people interpret it as me living in the past or me being strange or whatever, because people are not receptive to me reaching out to them at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
People find it weird, but for me, it's going back to my list of whatever my moral list I want to follow. One of those being be good to people. Look, if I'm reaching out to you and you ignore me, you don't message back, or you act like I'm an asshole for doing it, when I die, when you die, that shit is not on my conscience. That's on you now. Like you could have interacted, and that's on you. That's
Right.
how I look.
Okay. And I see where that's fair, to an extent. There's the other side of me. It's like, yeah, I can speak at least towards the people who, at least, yeah, because to me it's like it's not that you don't understand the reach out. It's like I get it, and a part of me appreciates the reach out, like when people do it. But I'm also like, what it feels like, and this isn't to say that's what you're doing. This is just like add somebody on the other side of that coin. I think what I would imagine makes people get weird about it is it feels like it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm just checking in to see how you are. It's whatever it is, I'm here. It's like yeah, like positive vibe. I think when people like when you like go, hey, what you doing? How's it going? It's kind of like they feel like it's like a poking. It's like a hey, what are you doing? Like it's like
To,
a
to clarify on how I word it, I say, hey, checking in, hope you're doing well.
like come back. Are
Can
you
you hear
still there?
me?
I
Yep,
can hear you through all of that. I can hear you now.
cool.
Okay.
Um,
What I was gonna say is I don't think it's something you can circumnavigate. I don't think it's something you can do without like just in the act in and of itself. People's it's kind of that thing like how stand-up comedians talk about it all the time. As soon as the words leave your lips, somebody gets it cut in their head and there's nothing you can do. It's like in you doing the act at all, people are gonna take that a certain way. And the way that I think most people take it when you like come to check in, it's less of a like just a friend saying hello, and it's more of a like the auditor. The auditor is coming to look at how you're living life and tell you what to do or how to do it or where you're going wrong. Or even if they're not going to tell you that, on some level, they're judging it. This is just how it feels. It's not to say you're doing that and you're doing the best way that you said. And like you said, it's like, that's not on you that they have that in their head. And some
yeah,
people, you're going to run into people who like love that and are like, yeah, you reached out to me. Thanks, buddy. Like, I appreciate the check in because I wasn't doing well or I needed somebody to talk to. You came right at the right time or I just like it. I just like it. Some people just like it and it just works better for their version of friendship or like whatever relationship you're in. For me, I see because I'm one of those people. I'm one of the people that are like I don't want to be checked in on. If you want
mm,
to say whatever you want to say to me, say what you want to say, and then we'll have a conversation. But then they're like, I got nothing. I just wanted to see how you're doing. And I'm like, well, if I was doing bad, I would tell you. And now, to be fair, not everybody's me. Most people can, like, most people do have a struggle with, like, saying when stuff is wrong. And they don't, and even that's not true. As much as I'm saying, like, I would tell you, that's not even true because on some level, I don't like to bother people with my problems. Like,
yeah,
whenever I have a thing, unless it gets to top tier, then I don't mess with bothering people with it unless it's those people who are in those upper echelons, a la my mom or my best friend. Like those people get those problems. But like in general, I kind of keep it like that's my stuff. And in general, like here's how I am with it. I feel like this, and this is my philosophy. One of the things that I go by, my little moral tenets, is I am here, and I don't think about it like this. This is just like something that I realized about myself or like how I interact. Is like I'm here as far as you want me here. And so the people that want me around, like you said, will come to me and will be in there, but they're not like checking in on me. They're just kind of like doing their own thing. And as a part of their own thing, like our roads happen to converge and then we go our ways and then we come back and then we don't and then we do. And so it's like less of a thing. Like
yeah.
it's less of a thing. And I think it's because I don't have the experience you had where like you lost a friend because you didn't check in. And
Yeah.
because I don't have that, I think that people will be okay as long as I don't check in. And like I think everyone is gonna be okay the same way I'm gonna be okay. And if it gets top tier, then they'll bother me when it becomes a bother, because that's when I would bother people. It's using my own understanding of reality and putting it on them. And in
Right.
some way that could also not be the best.
Yeah. No, I get it. And for me, it's I really want to reiterate or I have the sign for it, like emphasize. I really want to sign for emphasize.
Interesting. We're
Um,
learning things on this podcast.
yeah.
Sign language.
Um, I really want to emphasize that I don't hold any ill will to someone who ignores me or someone who's not reaching out or whatever. It just says something to me.
Right.
Like I have a lot of people who've been reaching out to me, a consistent group of people throughout this whole thing who reach out to me consistently and vice versa.
Right.
And those people, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that you reached out to me, and I'm going to remember that you gave a shit when things were really bad.
Right. Yeah, because it's easy to be there when things are good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really easy. And I think part of this is from running the buddy system of how I navigate people now. Because when you have something, even if it's not something that important, like oh, you can show, sure.
Yeah.
When you have something, people are fucking snakes about it, man. Like
Yeah.
really devious.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Here's
and
a
so,
side question, not to cut you off, but just a little tangent. Does
yeah.
it make you, and I know you, again, we have similar vibes, so I don't know where you fall with this, but I imagine you're pretty empathetic to most people in general regularly. But, like,
Yeah.
does it make you more, since that's the case, do you get, like, when I have those moments, I always go, like, man, women must have it hard. Like to me, it's like that's you experiencing it on like a level of just like, yeah, you run the buddy system and people want a part of that cake. And to me, it's like that goes to the larger thing of like, just imagine, I can't remember whose bit it was, but there was somebody that's like, imagine you just had sex. Like you were like the person. Was it Dave Chappelle?
He did a joke about how he had to get like a couple $1,000 from a bunch of mobsters for doing a show and get across town to his home. And he
Yeah.
said, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Good bit. Oh,
Really
that's
good.
so good. But yeah, it's that thing. It's like it's so crazy. It's like that's what they deal with. Go ahead.
I do. I actually do feel that. That's why the way I behave around women, even ones I do want to have sex with, I try to mitigate that as much as possible because it makes sense. But outside of all of this stuff of picking on people and death, I'm really good. Like not having to deal with people is so nice. And what I'm going to do is like, I want to make it so that when this is over, I can hopefully not have to work. Yeah, I want to work as much as I can now and try to make as much money now so that I can get my fucking RV, so I can cut my actual interpreting work like in half, and that I can like. I was worried that there was always this piece of me that was worried that like if I never become. Sorry, I know I'm doing the thing.
No, I was more laughing at the fact you almost whacked yourself in the face with the mic thing. I'm like, that was smooth there.
How people use lightsabers in Star Wars? That's so dangerous.
Oh yeah, I'm like they've never had a blooper like that.
Yeah. Fuck, what was I saying?
You were talking about how you want to maintain after this. You want to get the RV and all that stuff so you can maintain a certain level of like this peace that you found.
Yeah, I thought that like there was a piece of me that was scared that like, what if when I quit my job and I'm just a comedian, what if that hole is still there? What if I'm still miserable or whatever the fuck? And what I've come to realize in all of this is, nope, I'm so happy with like, oh, I don't have to go to work. Mm-hmm. Cool. I can stay all day and just work on stuff, work on music, work on books, podcasting, work out.
Yeah.
Like I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. And so all of this has done is made me realize I could give a fuck about fame. Obviously, you need a level of fame within.
It's a part of the bigger monster.
But when I say fame, you know what I don't mean. I
Yeah,
don't need to be.
no, yeah. You don't need to be in front of the cameras like that. Like you have, like it's like you have to be in front of the cameras because it helps the thing. But like that's how you make the money. But you don't need to be in front of the cameras. That's not what's important to you. Being
Right.
seen or like worshipped is not what's important.
What's important to me is that I make art that I'm proud of, that somebody out there, enough people are willing to pay for, that also enjoy.
Right.
That's all the fuck I need. I'm a very simple person. So what this quarantine has done is just put me in this mindset of like, okay, that's my goal is at this point, because I'm 29. Like, who knows how I'll feel when I'm 50? But at this point, RV, cut my workload in half, my actual job in half, and just have fun. Fuck around.
You've looked in? How much is an RV? Oh, that RV. I don't know
Um,
what happened to my slang just there.
no, you're good. I want to say I'm looking for something that's about 20,000 to 25,000. I want to get at least half of it paid off, so I want my deposit to be half of the amount of the RV, and then I'm gonna finance the rest.
Okay, so like 10,000 is financed and the other 10,000 is just you.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. I mean, yeah, it sounds doable. I mean, a little bit of an uphill. Oh, somebody put something. I have
I'm literally.
random question. When
Oh,
you sign, do you have really expressive facial expressions when you are signing? I've noticed this when you are signing. Oh, I've noticed this when people signing, but wonder if this is a social norm or just their flair.
no, it's so grammatically, your face is part of grammar. So, for instance, if I do my eyebrows up, that means that I'm asking a yes or no question, or I'm setting up a topic, the subject of the sentence. My eyebrows are down. That's a WH question. Who, what, when, where, how. Who, what, when, where, how, which, why. And then neutral is neutral. And then you have to, a lot of it's big expressive movements. So you have to body shift depending on what you're talking about, who you're talking about. You also have to establish context. So if, for instance, we're talking about a bunch of people with different names, so let's say Zero, Aaron, Michael, and Will, right? I'm not going to spell all those names over and over again. So I'm going to establish this is Zero, this is Aaron, this is Michael, and this is Will. So then I point to these and I can explain like, okay, this is who I'm talking about right now. And it goes from there.
Thank you for tuning in to the Sign Language Podcast, you guys. So
Yeah.
you thought you were going to get a little aside and just have a little thing. Nah, now you just got educated. Boom, gotcha. Thought you could come in and out of our podcast not knowing stuff. Not today. But you were saying. So
So
RV is in that's plan numero uno is get RV. How much are you going up at a time?
what do you mean?
Like what is the ETA on RV? Do you have one?
I don't. It's up in the air because of money right now. So right now I'm at $9,100 saved up. So I'm getting there, man. Like if I can just get to that 10,000, technically I can finance. But then my concern is the consistency of work afterwards.
Mm.
So once I have that a little more stable, then I'll finance it and go from there. But it's been hellish, man, trying to figure it out because I don't know anything about RVs. I don't want to get. I'm essentially buying my house right now.
Right.
So if I buy a fucked up RV, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So I've been taking my time with it. I've been getting help from other people. That's the other thing, man. Is like for stuff like this, my family didn't raise me to be independent in that way and to be able to put that type of stuff together. My family treated me as if I was incompetent, and that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you treat a kid like they're incompetent, they're going to become incompetent.
Right.
And so it's why I don't think this is going to be sexist, but I don't give a shit. It's why I don't think women.
It's fine. We'll clean it up later. It's fine. You'll deal with that when you have to go accept an Emmy. Don't worry about it.
I'm going to say something, Zero. I'm going to say something awful. Then can you clean it up?
I gotcha.
Okay. I don't think women should be trying to raise a man. I think that you should have. Gonna already clean that up. I don't. I don't
You
think
started off on a great foot. You really- I'm over
I
here in the
don't
lawyer. What the did he just say?
I don't
Oh.
think I think you need a masculine presence to raise a man.
Okay.
I think that yes, a single mother can raise a reasonable adult male, obviously.
Gotta
However,
bow out. Hey, hey, you chose the best time to do it. Get out while you can. Don't be a part of this.
however, um, a group of women, I don't give a fuck. You're not gonna understand what it is to be a man. You're just not gonna get it. So you cannot raise a man.
Would you say the opposite is also true?
Absolutely. You
Okay.
need a feminine energy to help raise a woman. Like, I'm not saying it's bad or wrong
Yeah.
for a woman or a group of women to raise a boy or like whatever.
Right.
I'm saying that there's just inherently some differences that
Yeah.
need to be addressed by someone of the same gender.
Okay. I get what you're
And
saying.
yeah, and my mom, my family, a bunch of like when my grandpa passed away or when he got sick, I was essentially left alone with a bunch of crazy women. And what they did is really funny. Women, if you go to my passive relationships, women find me very manipulative, or they think I'm playing head games.
Right.
And what they don't realize is I learned from the best bitch. I
Yeah.
learned from women.
Yeah, I was just having a very meta conversation. Well, let me first pause and say the cleanup part of this before I then go down to then clean up my thing. Because if we go all the way down, then it's going to be harder to clean it all up because I will lose credibility.
Yeah,
Okay. So, first and foremost, let's clarify. I assume you just admitted you were raised by women. I was also raised by women. Women
mm,
clearly raise men. They've been doing it for historically forever. And given the history of specifically our demographic, like let's call a spade a spade.
yeah,
It's there's a reason, there's a connecting thread between all of us that is dads and all the thing. As much as it's not a catch-all, because there's still a lot of people who have good fathers, and there can be good fathers. There are still some that mess around and do it. And to be fair, that happens in all races. Every race has a deadbeat dad. Every race has a thing or whatever. So this isn't to say that women can't raise a man. That's it. Like by that logic, we're saying that we are not men, but that's not the case. We're
right.
men who lost a certain thing that we had to learn later in life because we didn't have that male presence at the beginning. We didn't have somebody showing us those masculine things, and we were so integrated with things that women are that we became more leaning towards that direction.
I'm listening. You're not going to be able to see me for a second. I got to respond to my job before they call me and this whole thing gets fucked up.
That's
I'm
fine.
listening.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, to more clarification is just, and it's gonna sound like it's mansplaining, but this is just in general what we're saying is like you can, it's fine. The men will be fine that are raised by women, but there is a certain element that you lose when you're not raised by what you are, because there is a certain level of you don't understand what I am or what I go through, and I don't understand what you go through. I can talk about what I think women are and what I believe women are, but at a certain point, I will never know what it's like to carry a child. I will never
Right.
know what it's like to walk down the street and feel like I could be raped at any moment. I will never know that. I can cognitively understand it, but until I am that thing, I will never fully get it. I can still talk about it. We can still like handle each other and deal with it, but there is something that gets lost in that. Hey, Jerome's in it, but there's something that gets lost in all of that, and so you just all that Aaron's saying is there's a part that gets lost, much in the same way that if you don't put kids in sports.
Well,
My even though it's a refurbished phone that I got specifically because my other phone was breaking, it's also wacky and it just backs me out to the home screen at random. What's up, Jerome? Um, we're talking about dynamics between men and women right now because Aaron dug us a hole, and now we're going to be in trouble with people if they find out we're sexist. Anywho, but no, it's not that. It's really that like yeah, all we're saying is much in the same way that if you don't put a kid in sports or you don't have them go to public school and experience what it's like to socially interact as a child, something gets lost. And so in the same way, it gets lost when you don't have that same presence as you when you're growing up. And that's all this being said. And that's why he said, that's why I made sure to check to make sure it's a two-way street. He's also saying men can't raise women, like young girls, into full women because he doesn't understand entirely. He can do his best and still good people come out of that. But top tier is just easier. It's just easier when like you have both sides of the coin.
Right. So I want to add something, and that is my family is unique in that the people in my family are crazy. So like,
yeah, he also admitted that they're crazy.
Yeah, your mom doesn't. The women in your family don't seem to be like out of their goddamn minds.
No, they're not. They're not crazy, but I will admit to there is a certain way that things are done and how problems are addressed and how you're talked to and all that stuff. That the thing. It sounds like, again, like we've always said, your experience is like a more ratcheted up version of my experience. The underlying tone of women finding you manipulative is like because you were raised under the most in your mind games gaslighty situation, and that's how you learn to communicate. How you learn to get things done is in that world, and it's a thing I was talking about with one of my friends. That's like my lady friend. That like there's a problem that like there's a level of entitlement that women just don't see because they can treat us that way. Like they're allowed to
Right.
do the gaslighty, emotional manipulation thing, and we just kind of take it and don't call them out on it. And if they do get called out on it, you're a jerk for saying that, which is one of the most manipulative things you can do. But like
For
it's not their fault, and it's not like anyone's fault. It just is. Go ahead.
for me, it wasn't even that I had to call. I could call anybody out. I couldn't call. Like it wasn't like in my mom. When she was doing crazy shit, I couldn't. One, I couldn't understand what was happening because I wasn't mature enough and I didn't have enough life experience to be able to navigate that level of crazy manipulation.
Right.
And two, even if I did call her out, it wouldn't have mattered. So like, so that's
Yeah.
where that anger and that need, that desire for violence comes in when you're in a situation where you have no power and there's a person who is manipulating you and you can feel something's off, but you can't talk your way out of it. You can't walk away. You can't do anything. So you're as a man, I believe this is an instinct thing. As a man, when you get to when your back's against the wall, your instinct now is, okay, well, this is fight time now. I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like I'm already upsetting myself, so I'm gonna calm. Yeah. But speaking of gaslighting, I gotta tell you what happened.
Okay, we got 18 minutes.
18 minutes. I had to drive past my old neighborhood, and when you go by a place you haven't been in a long time, you get these floods of not necessarily visual memory, but feelings.
Like flashbacks?
Yeah, kind of.
But like emotional flashbacks.
Emotional flashbacks, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So I drove by and I was like, okay, I'm going to give some context for this.
Okay.
So I feel by white people in the area I've grown up in very gaslit. I feel that I've been mentally fucked with, and not on purpose.
Yeah.
So when I would talk about the cops, the response would always be, I don't know what you're talking about, Aaron. There's no problem. When I would talk about racism, racism's over, Aaron. When I would talk about whatever the fuck was going on, they didn't have the experience, but they're all surrounding me, telling me I'm acting crazy.
Right.
So I go down to my old neighborhood and I get this flood of feeling of like dread, of like really getting this visceral feeling of how that neighborhood treated me, adults and children. And what started to click was like, oh, I'm not crazy. Sometimes I think I'm crazy. Sometimes, like, at this point, the gaslighting has been so consistent and has been so long and aggressive. There are times when I question if things actually happen to me. So, like, the middle school or the stabbing stuff or the getting arrested, all of that sounds so crazy to me because partly I think I'm a reasonable person. Like, I don't think I'm the type of person you would have expected for all that stuff to happen. And being told, like, you're crazy, essentially, over and over, makes you can't connect with reality in the same way. And so driving down that neighborhood, it was this flood of, oh, it was not only was it as bad or it feels as bad as I thought it was, I'm pretty sure it was worse because I was a kid and I don't have other specific memories of it.
Right.
So it's just horrifying and despicable. And I think when we talk about race here all the time, I think a big part of why I'm so aggressive about it, I think is that I've been just beaten down and gaslit and told I was crazy and that none of this is real for so long that I feel like an alien conspiracist. Like, no, guys, I saw it. There was a UFO. I promise. Like, so yeah, the end.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get what you're saying. Yeah, especially, have you seen the Netflix movie Horse Girl?
No.
It's a very classic. There's so many movies that are like it. It's just the most recent one I have on hand. And essentially the idea is it's exactly the story of like somebody being told they're crazy and they don't feel like they're crazy because they're seeing all these things and they're connecting these dots. And at the end, it's kind of like, did it not? You know, those type movies. And it's like, yeah, when you're forced, when you're in a situation and you've had your experiences and then everyone's telling your experiences are a lie, it's like that, the nature nurture of it, where it's like when your nurture is against your nature, there's a conflict happening that resolves itself one of two ways. Either one, you conform to the nature and you go, oh, I guess I'm just crazy. Okay. And then you just feel that inside and you just suck that up. Or you be the crazy and everyone's calling you crazy, but you're like, no, I know my thing. I know that it's true. I saw the UFO. You. And so like yours is like, yeah, you've clearly gone the route of like, yeah, I know what I experience. I'm a reasonable person. I know what I'm seeing, and I know it's coming more to light that I'm not crazy because there's more evidence shown that I'm not crazy. And even while you say that I'm crazy, you're doing what I'm saying you're doing to me. Like you're not me, so you don't know it. It's like, it's hard. It is hard to communicate an experience to somebody.
And I think that's why, in the logic in me, and the philosophical part of me, when you make the arguments that you made like last episode, I get it. It makes sense. It's a perspective thing. But what makes it so fucking evil to me and vile is that you're talking to a child. They were talking to a kid. And that the idea of like, yes, you have your own perspective. Sure. But you're talking to a kid who is telling you, I'm being harassed by cops. I feel scared. I'm in danger. This is happening. That's happening. And to fuck with a kid's head like that, and adults to be doing that, it gives me this really bad taste in my mouth. And that's why I have such a visceral reaction to specifically older white people. Those are the people who especially like, because, you know, kids, whatever, fuck you. But like adults coming up to you and telling you that your existence is not real. It's I know I'm going in circles. It's just
I get what you're saying. And again, it's a difficult thing. And again, it's like, how do you? It's that brittle. It's that gray area. It's that gray area of like, like. There's a certain level of like, okay, you're adults, you should trust a kid. Why would a kid lie about their experience? But then you have the other side of that coin where like we have heard several stories where kids are just like this is a thing that I believe, and like you could be using it to get away with stuff. Who knows? Again, their experience. It's like if you believe a thing, even if a little kid came up and told you like, hey, I met Allah, like I met him. And you're like, no, you didn't. And he's like, no, I know what I experienced. It was a lot. It was a dude. And then he goes to describe this like story that's like, I guess. That's like, I guess. It's like,
I know the argument you're making, and philosophically, and I agree. But then if we turn down meeting Allah to the cops keep fucking with me, and this is like historically.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the cops keep messing with you from their experience. It's their belief that like the cops are nice people. They're not gonna believe that story.
But objectively, like historically
for you, that's a thing. Historically for them. Historically for America. Go ahead.
I'm saying like you can go into the history book and
Yeah.
look at like since slavery on, we had this issue. This isn't crazy. It's not like seeing a ghost. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay. I'll hit you with another example. We
Okay.
also in the history books in the history books we also burnt women for being witches.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're a kid and you're telling someone I met a witch,
Uh-huh.
okay, we met a witch. Historically, there are witches and they do evil things. We've seen them do some pretty bad things. If you
I'm
come
excited
to
to hear
somebody with that, if you come to somebody with that story, you
Uh-huh.
understand where, like, as an adult, even you be even more so like, yeah, like that was back then. Though we're better now. We don't burn women anymore. We don't do that. And you're like, I just saw them burn a lady for knowing math, and it's like, where did you see this? And then they go to the place. If they go to the place, now to be fair, they don't really do a checkup because at that point it's like, yeah, yeah. But like, if they went to, you get what I'm saying.
But even with that example, you're talking about mythical creatures. Not to say that Allah or God's mythical, but you're
Okay.
talking about like spiritual beings, things that are not tangible in reality, in our perception of what we can, taste, touch, experience.
No, no, I'm saying in the version of witches that they used to believe. Yes, no, the witches are not real. I'm not saying that you as a kid are telling people that like witches are real. You're
Yes,
telling people that other people are burning women for being witches.
because they believe that they are witches.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not actually witches. They believe that they're witches.
Yes, the people who are burning people believe that the people are witches.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you're just the kid expressing, hey, that's messed up. They're burning people who are witch. Like, they're not witches. Everyone agrees nobody is a witch. We're
yes.
all
No,
on
it's
that
witch.
same page. But you, the person I'm telling as a kid, don't believe that that's the reason that they're burning, and you don't even believe that they are burning women because you're like I don't see it. Yes, there was a cloud of smoke. Okay, there was a cloud of smoke. That doesn't mean a woman got burnt here.
Right.
In your experience, you've never seen a woman burnt for being a witch or being anything. Being
Yeah.
any, you've never seen a woman burn. If a kid came up to you and said they just lit a lady on fire, are you like, oh, let's go check it out, kid? Like you're like they didn't burn a witch.
I would say that I understand, again, philosophically, I know what you're saying,
I know. Yeah,
but
again,
it's like Rodney King got the shit kicked out of him when I existed. It was
yeah.
on video. It was on video.
Okay.
Black people as a whole for years have been like, hey guys, look, like, so when in the 90s, a man is beaten damn near to his death, it's videotaped, riots happen, I exist as a person, then a couple years later, I'm like, the cops are fucking with me too. That's just not even, couldn't even possibly, how could?
Okay. Here's what. Okay, I feel like I can get to this metaphor. It's like girls get kidnapped.
They do get kidnapped.
Okay. Historically, girls have been kidnapped by creepy neighbors and weirdos.
Yes, that's
Okay.
people,
Okay.
usually dudes, usually old dudes.
Okay, usually old dudes. Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Girl, little girl runs up to you and says that the guy, her older teacher,
Uh-huh.
was trying to kidnap her.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like, of course, your teacher was trying to kidnap you.
I would ask questions. I would say, why do you think that? What did
Okay.
he say to you? What did he touch you? What happened? It's what I would say.
Okay. And then when the little girl goes, well, he was like, you should come here. You should come here. And like
Mm-hmm.
I felt an energy, and like the way that they were doing it was like I could tell that he wanted to kidnap me because he was like, come here. And they're like, well, teachers, he might have wanted to call you over to like say something. Like, there's so many things that could happen. And in your experience, when you
Mhm.
haven't been kidnapped and you don't know, you're not like, oh, the little girl, like, she's right on it.
So I have a good example for this. I was in my
Okay.
youth group. I told you about my youth group, right?
Yes, you told me about. We got 5 minutes.
Okay. I told you about when they were arguing why they should be able to say nigger to me.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So for years I had been bringing this up that the cops were fucking with me for years. I've been
Okay.
talking about it. It wasn't a one-time thing.
Okay.
Nobody believed me. No one listened to me. Then I
Okay.
started dating one of the girls in the youth group, white girl.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, she started noticing that the cops were fucking with us. They were coming up to everywhere we walked because we couldn't do anything other than walk around the neighborhood. So we would be fucking places all the time. The cops would come up and they would get aggressive with us and they would be fucking with us. And then she went back to the youth group and was like, oh, no. He hasn't been lying about this. This happened to me too now.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, you're being... Sorry, I shouldn't have said her name. Sorry. So I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But
Luckily, we're not that popular yet, so
like,
I'll bleep it out. When I edit it.
but it's like, oh, you're being ridiculous. Now you're both are crazy. And I before I keep going, I'm going to acknowledge your side of things.
Okay.
And that yes, a big part of this is a perspective thing. If you have not experienced this and it sounds crazy to you, I understand the hesitancy.
Okay.
However, if a person is telling you story after story, if they keep bringing it up, if they're clearly in distress, like clearly not doing well, maybe after the 20th time, maybe after 5 years of knowing them, maybe they're not fucking around. Maybe you should take a goddamn second, step out of your experience as a fucking adult and listen to this person who is suffering every day. I know I'm angry and I'm not mad at you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're making a point. It's your experience and it's your truth. I that's the thing. It's happened to most people. Let me acknowledge your side of the story and say,
okay,
you're right. It is happening. It's not happening. It's time and time again. It has been happening. I just also understand. It's like, yeah, it's like you're right. They are messing with you, and it is prejudice, and it is stuff that is coming from years in our past, and 200 years was never going to come out that easy, like a stain. It's going to be years beyond this until we stop doing the thing to our kids. But that's a whole nother thing. We talked about that. But again, to reiterate, you just reiterated your point, and I get why you're passionate. You're passionate about it because it's your thing, and it's like trying to help other people. And again, it's a bigger issue than like just you. It is multiple times this has happened, and it's that thing where like, yet to you, having been the one who experienced it, it's like, how are you not listening after the 30th time? At least just out of pure curiosity, how are you not like, well, maybe, I mean, they might be crazy, but fine. They keep talking about, just out of the sheer, like if you talk to a flat earther, it's like, you were, okay, fine. Tell me why. Tell me why the earth is flat. Like, that for you, it's like the lack of even trying to go there. And to me, it's like, you know, it's this weird, like, there's a part of you that wants to do that with a flat earther, and then there's another part of you that's like, if you're a flat earther, I'm not going to reach you. Like, I'm like, if science and all that stuff isn't going to reach you, I'm not going to reach you. So when their experience is you're a black person who's upset, you're a young black man who's upset, and you feel like, and again, given their experience with you, which again to them is like, oh, you're being crazy. It's not that you're not doing things. It's like you're not the best at communicating your stuff. Who knows what happened between you and the cop and all, again, all the multiple stories they could go down in the rabbit hole. So I get the side where it's like, sometimes crazy people be crazy, and they do line up. They like to justify their craziness. They line it as close to other realities as possible. Like, there are people who make up stories. There are people who stick to those stories for days on it. Like, I know, no, we got 28 seconds. We all know somebody who sticks to stuff. and all that stuff. But yeah, all those words and things. Anywho, to wrap up the bow of the rest of the episode, just to say, like, yeah, it's been a long going discussion. It is hard to conceive, and maybe one day when we're doing this back again, like with each other, we can grab somebody who is of the opposite, like, and not the opposite, but in that in between, like some white person who doesn't know any better and like
Yeah.
why they would think. Now, to be fair, I'm gonna have to be referee and keep it from being you just accosting them. But like at the same time, I think it's the your perspective is your perspective, their perspective is their perspective, and I get where to you your perspective ends at a point and their perspective ends at a point, and those two things have a connecting thread where it's like they are you, like they are you. They're just you on the other side of that coin. On the other side of the coin, like you've run into, you've literally barked for crazy people, like for the comedy show when you're doing barking, and then a homeless person comes up, and they're
Oh,
like,
right.
I think like homeless person belief is just like, and they're just as locked into it, and they can connect the dots. That's what it feels like.
Before we end it, I want to point something out with every argument you've made.
Okay.
Okay. Every time you make the argument for why the other people would perceive what I'm saying is crazy, you've been using a kid saying Allah, you've been using witch burnings,
Yeah.
just a homeless person spouting out nonsense. We've used alien UFOs. Is there an example you can use that is within clearly the realm flat earthers where you what's up?
Little girl kidnapping.
Little girl kidnapping. There we go. That's the one. That's the one that I'll fair enough.
Okay.
That's the one that I will 100% give you. Is that's where that's where there's gray area where it's like, but the witch burning and the flat Earth and all that other stuff makes it, or the homeless people makes it come off as though what I'm saying is completely out of the realm of reality. And I know it's not.
No, it's out of the realm. Like I'm using those extremes because it's out of the realm of their reality. In their reality, cops are good, nice people. They serve and they protect, and there's nothing wrong.
Also,
Now, they'll believe in the cartoony version where it's like the mob and like they got paid off to do like to look the other way. But like they're not gonna believe that just because no money involved, no getting up the corporate ladder. There's nothing to be gained from it. It literally is just beating on people to beat on people. That's not even hard. That's like a nearly impossible thing for you to make them accept as a thing. Just from the words of a child and just from a couple of pictures and videos.
To add on this isn't just about the police. I know we kind of hone in on that because it's a very clear.
This is the easiest one. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, just in driving past my old neighborhood and those feelings was like hard to describe to you. Like so visceral, and I don't have memories with it, but I remember I can feel like, oh, that neighborhood hated me.
Yeah.
They hated me. And I remember them letting me know, like, the me getting called a nigger was really blunt, but I just remember this feeling of like everyone in this neighborhood knows that I am different, and they're gonna let me know that I'm different by the way they treat me, and it's not in a positive way.
Yeah.
And so it's coming to a place of, and I'm cold now, but it's coming to a place. It's coming to a place of within this quarantine of being separated from everybody and being able to dig through like, okay, where was I wrong? Where was I right? Yeah. What was real? What wasn't?
Yeah.
And the stuff that is coming out that is more real is like even more shocking than I realized, and it's frustrating because it makes you feel crazy. Like when I say like, there's a piece of me sometimes where I'm like, did that stuff happen? And that's a weird, scary place to be in your head.
Oh yeah.
To think, did none of this happen? Did I make all this shit up in my head?
Yeah, no, gaslighting is a very real and very scary version of manipulation where it makes you question your reality. And it makes it at that point, like, it's like that scene. Have you seen Spider-Man: Far From Home?
Yeah.
The one with not Mr. Magneto, Globehead.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, his
Black
whole
shit.
yeah, his whole thing, like I didn't think about that because I only knew him as the cartoony comic book, and even then I didn't because I don't really read the comic book. But I was like, oh, that's the wackest villain. Like, oh man, he's got a globe head and he uses illusions. But then watching like that whole sequence where
Yeah,
Spider-Man's getting messed with, and then at the end of it, like, oh, he doesn't know what's real because the
yeah,
projections were so like it might as well have been, and your perceptions aren't your perceptions, and that's what it feels like. That's what gaslighting is. It's like it's
right,
messing with your perception so much that it's only once you're at where you're at now, separated from it, years down the line. And again, how that affected you and messed you up in a lot of ways, and like made you feel crazy. That like all you can have is this visceral adult flashback. Because when you're a kid getting abused by your parents, you don't notice it's abuse until you're an adult and somebody explains what abuse is and what it does to you. Then you're like, that's messed up. They did that to me. They
yeah,
did that to me. And like I was an innocent. Like it's true. Like, and again, that's why you get so heat. There's nothing crazy about your reaction to the things that happen to you. Like there's nothing crazy about that. And the point that I'm making is even not even that you're wrong. It's just that it's it's a harder battle to fight. Again, it's like it's harder to like because obviously like every that's why everyone who isn't them jumps to everyone knows the answer is don't be racist to black people. Everyone knows that. But like what happens is the subtle undertones and like when that's why society now like most racism except for the extreme ones like the shootings and stuff like most of them are like subtle hits. They're like
yeah,
subtle jabs, subtle ways you get looked at, subtle ways you get treated because like you don't want to get like you don't want to get called out for being bad or racist or any of that stuff, but you're not even aware enough. Like it's not even that conscious. It's so deep inside of you that's just like I just feel unsafe, so I'm looking at that person. But like I don't think it's because they're black, and I don't think it's because they're this or that. It's just like look at them, and you just
right.
describe it in these generic-y ways. But it is all the same, and it's a deeper thing. That's why I think it's harder to untangle. It's harder
Right.
to grab that and then pull it to the surface. And I think there's a thing that was said in the pickup people that I like. There's like first you must seek to understand, then to be understood. And I don't think most people understand those, like how you've described it. It's like I don't understand being the type of person that could see it that much back to back in reality, back to back, that much evidence, and still deny that it's happening. Especially to a kid who's telling you that you can't understand that, and that's why it's hard for you to communicate to them because you're not coming from a place of understanding. You're coming from a place of how do you not get this? And so
This,
that I'm trying to bridge that gap between how do you not get this and that's not happening, and just like connect those
I've
dots.
I understand that. I've come to a place where I'm not trying to convince anybody of shit anymore. Like in this quarantine, what's nice about it is I don't have to anymore. My entire life, I've had to convince people to do things or think things, whether it was in church and trying to explain to them like cops were fucking with me, whether it was in school and trying to explain to people like, hey, just because I have this particular accent doesn't mean I'm not fucking black. Or when I was in college, like whatever. When I'm trying to explain shit to people, the buddy system, trying to explain to people like, hey, if you work hard and if you come to the fights consistently, you'll get on a show, you fucking idiot. Like I'm done explaining shit to people. What I want to do is express where my perspective is and come to realize that there are other people out there that have had similar experiences that appreciate it. I learned that from street stand-up. Was the more I kept talking about this type of stuff, the more people would gravitate. That would be like, "Hey, thank you for saying that. That's happened to me too, and you're the first person to say it." So for me, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm trying to help the people that were
You're
like
just speaking your truth, man.
speaking
Like
my truth,
it's
man.
all it is. And like
Like
people radiate with like honesty and truth. They just like know. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
so,
it's like
I'm not trying to convince anybody anything. They can fuck off. And I know that's a mean way to say it, but but it's like I'm done. I'm
Yeah, like you
done.
said, you're tired. I get it. Like again, that's I feel like sometimes you do got to put down the sword and just be like, listen, this is just I'm just saying what I've experienced. I'm not gonna fight you on whether you think it's right or wrong or whether like it's just it's at a certain point it does hit a wall and it's not there isn't a point. So yeah, if that's the lot you decided to go with, I say rock with it. If it's what's making you happy, that's first and foremost. First and
Yeah,
foremost is self care. Then you can worry about everybody else. And again, it's not your self care is helping. That's the thing. Is like in doing that, you are helping those that need that help. That you are reaching out to the people who also feel crazy and like are like, oh, I'm not alone. Like good, good to know I'm not alone because that's a big part of it too. It's like if you even had like a couple of people that's like, don't listen to them. Like you're right. Like don't listen to that. Like you're right. Just they're not gonna get it. We'll be cool like that's what's interesting to me about you is this is very again we're capping it off but like when did you start having black friends?
I had a few in. Okay, it went in chunks. In elementary school, there were a few black kids in my neighborhood, but their families were reasonable, and so they didn't get fucked up when they had to go home.
Mm.
So then in middle school, I had more black friends, but it was middle school and worse. It was like a more aggressive version of elementary school and middle school. So the black kids in middle, what's up?
I was gonna say like how were they with you like where
They
did they
said that I didn't act black enough.
that's so interesting but I guess that's because that's not the issue that would come up with them like I just was interested that you didn't get like validated from them like guys this is happening to me and then they would be like yeah no that happens all the time.
I didn't get validated from them because so like I was getting it on both ends, the gaslit. So at school, it was that I didn't act black enough, or what I'm saying is crazy, or I was being weird, or whatever the fuck. Then I would go home, and then I'm getting screamed at. No one's listening to me. Yada yada yada. Go back and forth. So with the black kids, there wasn't enough. I wasn't articulating it to them in the way that they needed to hear it for them to understand like where I was coming from. So for them, I just didn't act black enough, and that was it. Simple as that.
That's so weird. I mean, again, like obviously the situation is all sorts of jacked up. It's just so interesting to me that like that wouldn't have solidified that having that have had expressing your frustration with white people wouldn't have caused that brotherhood kinship of like yeah like okay you're black enough for right now because I want to poop on white people because they've made me feel worse than we're making you feel. You know,
It
it's like
was
the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The,
Yeah, it was because the way I was articulating it wasn't black enough to them. So you got to remember these are middle school kids, so they're idiots. They're not gonna they're not gonna like. So I'm not articulating the information to them for them to get it. The white kids, I'm not. They just don't get it, and my family's fucking crazy. So
what was
it
so you got it in chunks. Did you get? Did you have black friends in high school?
I was in theater. There's only other no. I was
That answers that question.
There was one other dude that we were friends throughout middle school, and then he jumped on a theater later in it. But by that point, this is years and years and years.
You
No
got
other black
like
friends.
that.
Yeah. And then in college, I went to the Cal State San Marcos, and that was all extreme feminist and Chicano pride bullshit. So they didn't give a fuck. They didn't give a fuck. So then from college was it went from college to stand up, and then what ended up happening was stand up comics are all about I want to make fun of you, and the only thing that they would go after is like Aaron doesn't act black enough, and so then it went from that to Aaron doesn't act like it just over and over again. So
That's interesting.
yep.
Okay. And again, we'll touch on it in another episode. Hopefully, I even remember by next episode because that is something that I find fascinating as far as like because you didn't go to here's the projection that I've seen usually when this happens. It's like people like yeah, like people in your general situation eventually gravitate towards more black people, obviously. and
Correct.
then they like start being a part of like groups that are like about helping Black people, and then that gives them the validation, and then that gives them the all the stuff that you need. But you didn't go that route. Like what kept you from like joining specifically Black groups, air quotes?
Because I didn't even have that connection in the same way either. Because I was dealing with at home. So
Mm-hmm.
my family, did I tell you they were one of the first to be integrated up on the East Coast? Apparently, I found this newspaper article, and apparently my family was one of the first to be integrated into white neighborhoods. So my mom, my auntie, and my uncle were kids getting put in a white neighborhood. So
Oh.
they grew up in white neighborhoods and are crazy. And then they put me in a white neighborhood, but they're crazy.
Mm.
So the way they're articulating things to me is not helping me articulate things to the world.
That's
And
interesting.
so, yeah, it is zero. I really cannot put into words the level of mental weight that puts on a person when there is no place to hide. Like where though, okay, those white people that I was complaining about my entire life, they are not crazy. They are from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But they're making me feel crazy because there's so many of them and they're invalidating me.
Mm-hmm.
The Black people are not crazy. They're coming from their perspective. But they're making me feel crazy, and there's a bunch of them, and they're not helping. My family is crazy and completely invalidating, and so they're making me feel crazy and not helping anything.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And that again, well, again, I hope and pray that I can remember some of that, because that was another thing. By the way, we so much material. Because by the way, I didn't hit on another thing that I did remember like halfway through this podcast that I
Do you
did
want?
want to talk to you about, which is that you mentioned in an ACMM. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna plug your podcast too. In an ACMM, you said you worked in a strip club.
Yeah.
And that's a whole story that I've never heard or anything about that. And I'm very interested in that, in like how that was, what
That could
happened
be a
there,
whole
all
other
that stuff.
episode.
But people are going to have to tune in at some other point to hear those stories. And hopefully I remember them. And again, we still got to get into the barista sex job you were doing. We got to get
Oh,
into my policing story. We got to get into, like, we got a whole bunch of stuff. We've just been, because the news was what it was last week. And this is just kind of the tip that we're on right now. Again, like I said, we're just flowing with whatever comes. And what happens to come up sometimes, when I think back down.
you fucking
Yeah.
froze.
But, what comes up some of the time, what comes up a lot of the times, is the fact that we're Black men, and in America, that has a certain amount of things you're going to deal with. Specifically, you've gone through the rougher end of it. I've had a couple things, but not nearly as bad or even close to. But, like, yeah, so that was this episode, you guys. Thanks for rocking with us for as long as you did. Thanks for those of you that popped in. And thanks for those of you that decided to watch this whole thing on YouTube whenever it gets uploaded. We appreciate you. This is I'm Zero Remsen. You can find me on Instagram at @0_KR anime. This is Aaron Chase. You can find him at Aaron Chase 91 on Instagram, and you can find this podcast in general on Buddy System Comedy at on YouTube. Just search Buddy System Comedy, and it'll be called the A to Z. And you just watch we got all the other episodes up there right now. There was one uploaded today, and also we'll be dropping the music video for Pretend here soon. So you should go listen to that. Listen to the EP again. We got a lot of different stuff going on. But that's all of our stuff. Any final thoughts, Aaron?
No, man, we'll talk more next week.
All right, guys. Thanks. See you next week. Later.